Hello and good evening. I'm Margaret Coker. I'm the editor-in-chief of The Current. We are an in-depth, nonpartisan news source serving coastal Georgia. Tonight, along with Tigers Roar TV, the student voice of Savannah State University, we welcome the Democratic candidates for Georgia's first U.S. House district. The Post is a single representative to Congress representing us here in coastal Georgia. We'd like to thank Savannah State President Kimberly Ballard Washington and Dr. Juliana Trammell with the amazing staff, faculty, and students here at Savannah State at the Department of Journalism and Communications for helping make this happen tonight. We appreciate all of them welcoming us here to the studio here at Tigers Roar TV. My co-moderator tonight is Ariel Felton. She's a Georgia native whose work has been published in the New York Times, the New Yorker, the Washington Post, and Scallywag, as well as other publications. She's the director of youth programs for Savannah's Deep Center, which focuses on helping young citizens connect their learning to their lives through arts, culture, and community activities.
Thank you, Margaret. Now I'd like to introduce our candidates. All are running for the Democratic ticket for the U.S. House of Representatives for the May 24th primary. The winner will go on to face the incumbent Representative Earl L. Buddy Carter in the November general election. We present them in alphabetical order. Joyce Marie Griggs attended North Carolina Central University, a historically Black university in Durham, where she earned degrees in sociology and counseling. She later entered the Army, becoming an intelligence analyst and attending airborne school. She deployed to Iraq 3 times and was awarded a Bronze Star for meritorious service in a combat zone. While in the Army Reserves, she earned a law degree from John Marshall Law School in Atlanta. Wade Herring grew up in Macon and is a longtime employment lawyer in Savannah at Hunter McLean. He is active in the community on local boards such as the Chatham-Savannah Citizens Advocacy, Georgia Legal Services, and Georgia Appleseed. He's a longtime member of Wesley Monumental Methodist Church. He is past president of the University of Georgia Law School Alumni Association Council. Michelle Monroe lives in Richmond Hill. She attained the rank of colonel during her nearly 3-decade career service in the U.S. Army, working as a nurse, midwife, and hospital administrator. Her most recent position was as commander and CEO of Wynn Army Community Hospital at Fort Stewart. She retired from the Army in December 2020 and now works as a healthcare consultant on women's health issues.
As we begin tonight, here's the format that we'll be using. And the candidates have agreed to the following. The questions and topics that we are focusing on have been submitted to us by Savannah State students, as well as readers of The Current through many online portals. Tonight's moderators, that's us, will present the questions and may, when we choose, ask follow-up questions to one or more candidates after their answers. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer the questions. The order in which the candidates will answer will shift over time. Not every question will be presented to every candidate. Questions, rebuttals, and timing are all at the moderator's discretion. A timekeeper using colored cards will alert the candidates to the elapsed time. A yellow card, when raised, means that 20 seconds will be remaining. And red cards mean it's time to stop. Each candidate will be given the opportunity for a 1-minute opening statement and then 1 minute at the end for closing statements. And now we're going to begin with our opening statements. The order was determined through a drawing off stage, and the opening statement will go, the candidate going first is going to be Joyce Griggs, followed by Michelle Monroe, and then Wade Herring. Joyce, you have your minute.
Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here this afternoon. And I am Joyce Marie Griggs. I'm a combat veteran, boots on the ground, As they said, I've been to Iraq 3 times. I received a Bronze Star. I was a military intelligence officer. I was one of 10 children. I was in the middle, so I had to fight my way. I earned my way through college, undergraduate school, and also undergrad and graduate school, and also the GI Bill helped me pay for law school. I'm a mother of 2 children, my daughter who graduated from Savannah State, and my son is a local business owner, and I am a fighter for all people. I am the best candidate for U.S. Congress for the 1st Congressional District to represent you. I have the heart of the people. I feel the heartbeat of the people. I have traveled this district numerous times. I've been to all the counties. I've interacted with all people, irregardless of their race, color, or sexual orientation. I am a fighter for all people. I can't be bought and I can't be bribed. And you need to send me to Washington so we can continue the fight that we started in 2020. We got more votes than anyone ever in 2020. So let's finish the fight. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having us here today. Thank you, Savannah State, and thank you to the Current. I am Dr. Michelle Monroe, and I am a trusted leader for change. As you already heard, I'm a nurse and a midwife, but I have a doctorate of nursing practice, so that is why I call myself Dr. Michelle Monroe. It is a terminal level degree, and that is why I say Dr. Michelle Monroe. I also am a proven leader. The proven leader part is 28 and a half years and culminating as a colonel in the United States Army. It was my job as the commander to take care of 85,000 beneficiaries during the pandemic. Not one. I lost not one. All the policies and procedures that we put in place together as a team were beneficial to save the lives of all the beneficiaries that we took care of. I'm also a military officer. Thank you.
And Wade Herring.
My name is Wade Herring, and I'm running for Congress because the people of this district deserve a representative who puts the people first, who puts the district first, ahead of personal politics and ahead of personal interest. My candidacy is a continuation of my longtime service to this community as a lawyer, but also as a volunteer. Frank Callum Boys and Girls Club, Georgia Legal Services, Georgia Appleseed to stop the school to prison pipeline. And when I'm elected, I will fight to protect voting rights. That's number one. That's why I'm running, because the incumbent voted to overturn the election. Healthcare, education, admit the reality of climate change, but to put a person in office who represents the people of this district, that's why I'm running.
Thank you, candidates. Now we're going to start with our questions, and Ariel Felton will begin.
Thank you. Our first question tonight is from a student who says she doesn't care about the past. Instead, she only cares about the future. This is the only thing that she wants to know. What is your clear vision for the district? We'll start with Ms. Griggs, go on to Mr. Herring, and then end with Ms. Monroe. Ms. Griggs?
My vision for the district is to make sure all people are included, that all people are taken care of. In this district, we have the urban, we have the rural, we have the in-between. We have big issues with health care, especially in the rural areas. So my vision for the district is make sure we include everyone, to take care of all people, irregardless of your socioeconomic standings, not just the rich people, but the poor people, the disenfranchised. My one reason that I am running also is we must have police and social justice reform. Unfortunately, there are too many people being killed that are being marginalized, discriminated against. So I have so many issues, so many visions for this district, but also the main reason is to take care of the people, and the people of this district need a strong voice. And I am that strong voice. I can't be bribed and I can't be bought, and I will fight continuously for the people of this district and all the issues that we are facing: health care, education, criminal justice reform, voting rights.
Thank you. Mr. Herring.
I'm running for office to be a representative for everybody in this district, and I'm running because I believe in the hope of America. I believe in a better tomorrow for America. I'm not running because of a past that never was. Now that said, we need to know our history so we can understand our present. But I'm running for the hope of America, and that means protecting voting rights so everybody has a voice, expanding health care, especially early in people's lives, investing in education, particularly for early childhood education and daycare, and preparing for climate change and mitigating against future harm from climate change.
Thank you. Ms. Monroe.
Thank you. My vision for this district of coastal Georgia is actually to ensure the future of families. And I say that because of the reason that I got into this race. You see, I am a midwife, and I met with Buddy Carter, and he told me that future of healthcare, the lives of infants and Black maternal mortality was not his issue. It was a state issue. You see, if you're a Black woman in this district, you are twice as likely to die in one of our hospitals. Our infant mortality rate is a D-, but in Chatham County, it's an F. I can change that. I'm a midwife and I have solutions for change. We need to expand Medicaid. We need to honor the scope of practice of APRNs and physician's assistants so that we can have healthcare providers in rural areas. This is important. Thank you.
Thank you. Another student question. What can Congress do to improve voting rights and transparency in campaign donations in America? We'll start with Ms. Monroe, move on to Ms. Griggs, and end with Mr. Herring. Ms. Monroe?
Thank you. We've seen a blockade, I want to say, on voting rights in the state of Georgia. And I say that because specifically in Savannah State, yes, we have early voting, but are you aware that there's only 5 locations? And of that, only 3 locations that you can drop your absentee ballot off. And oh, by the way, you have to go inside the building. So the building has to be open in order for you to drop it off from 8 to 5. That really allows for us to actually have voters go to the polls. We need to open up our options. We need to allow voters the opportunity to get out to vote. What I've heard is that there are employers who actually will not allow voters to go off the workplace. And or if they choose to wait till May 24th, they may only have a 2-hour window. So if the lines are long, they may not get to vote. This is a problem.
Thank you. Mrs. Griggs.
Thank you again. It is serious. It's a voting rights issue. 1965, the Voting Rights Act was passed. Unfortunately, it has been weakened. It has been gutted and gutted and gutted. In 2013, the Supreme Court passed laws basically further weakening the Voting Rights Act. In fact, there was a study done and the Supreme Court basically said, well, minorities and others have reached an even par as far as voting, which is a lie. That is not true. And as a result of that, states start changing the law. They start weakening the laws on voting rights. We need to strengthen the Voting Rights Act. People of all color, races, and sexes died so that everyone could have the right to vote. And I will say this, that we need to make sure Congress can help strengthen the Voting Rights Act. For example, the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, it's still just sitting there. We need to make sure we push that through and strengthen the Voting Rights Act. As far as finances, finance reform, campaigns, we need to make sure, we need to get corporations out of politics. And we need to make sure that there's a lot of transparency, that people can see who's giving what. These big corporations need to be cut out of it and let the people elect the people they want instead of money being poured into this election cycle.
Thank you, Ms. Griggs. We'll end with Mr. Herring.
The very reason I'm running is because of the protection of voting rights. What happened on January 6th in this country should never have happened. The incumbent never should have voted to overturn the election. Every statement I've made, I always start out with the protection of voting rights. So what can Congress do? Let's pass the John Lewis bill. Let's restore Department of Justice review when voting changes are made. Let's cut down on the lawsuits and create greater certainty on the front end. The second part was about transparency in donations. We already have a robust system where donations have to be reported on the FEC by name and by amount. My campaign has done that, unlike other campaigns. My campaign has been transparent with the donations. You can check out the FEC website and see for yourself.
Thank you. A question specifically for Ms. Griggs. An organization called the Committee to Stop Joyce Griggs has published a video ad alleging that you did not pay local businesses for previous campaign work. It also discusses your disbarment as a lawyer. Are these allegations true or false? And what comment do you have to add on this ad?
Yeah, actually, I know who's behind that campaign. I had hired a guy several years ago to do some political advertising, and he did not perform the contract. So we had a dispute. So I told him, if you want to sue me, let's go to court, and we'll deal with it. So I would say overall that allegations is false, and I know one person that's probably here tonight that's behind that. Okay, but I'll stand up. If anybody have any more questions, they can ask me. My phone number is 912-316-6009. And also, reference to disbarment. I'm glad you asked, because I would have said it anyway. Reference to disbarment. I ran for Congress in 2000 against a very strong Republican in this area, Jack Kingston. As a result, some Confederate-era judges, federal judges, attacked me professionally. My clients did not file bar complaints against me. Savannah Morning News took the order out of a federal court and sent it to the state bar. As a result, they started an investigation. I never had a due process hearing or any of that, even though the state bar was created and said that before you can disbar an attorney, you must have a due process hearing. That was never allowed. I want to just say this briefly, that in 2009, while I was deployed to Iraq, my daughter, who's a lawyer now, contacted me via email. She said, "Mama, did you see the Supreme Court ruling?" I said, "No. What happened was the Supreme Court of Georgia overruled my case." Okay. However, and I filed a motion for them to put my name back on the list, but they refused to. You know why? Because they probably knew that they were wrong. And that was in a case of Stubbs. Some other lawyers went up, they said, you can't take a lawyer license based on federal court. But nevertheless, they took my license and they refused. That's one reason I'm running, to make sure people of color, especially black women, look at what happened to the Supreme Court nominee a couple of weeks ago, as highly qualified as she was. That's why I'm running also, to
Ms.
keep that
Griggs.
from happening to other people, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. I would like to give a chance for the other candidates to also respond to the allegations in this ad if they would like to. Mr. Herring?
I didn't know anything about the ad until I saw it today or yesterday, and I don't know anything about whether or not Ms. Griggs is paid for contractual obligations or not. I do think it's important for candidates for office to meet the professional expectations of their professions, to follow the rules and to comply. I think that's a bare minimum to hold public office.
Thank you. Ms. Monroe?
We take an oath of office as an officer as well as a congressperson. And with that oath of office, you have to uphold and hold people accountable. And so by doing so, you must actually pay your people, pay your staff. I'm not sure what happened, just by what you said, that was the allegations. But Ms. Griggs has also said that this was an issue with her disbarment. She's mentioned it numerous times, and I think that she has been very forthcoming that has been an issue and has been an issue in the past.
Thank you.
Can I respond? Just
Yes.
briefly?
Yes.
We'll give you 1 minute.
Okay, just 1 minute. Okay. Also, so people will know that in some of the federal court documents, they put in there that I was a black female, yes, that I ran as a Democrat, yes, against Republican Jack Kingston. And as I said, they sent it up to the State Bar of Georgia. And again, you're not supposed to have a special master from the same county. They did that anyway. So they basically overlooked anything that I had ever done. Also, I would like to point out that I don't look back. I can't look back. I can't go forward if I'm looking backwards. So I'm looking forward. So if people want to use that against me, they can. And like I said too, I also know who did that. As a matter of fact, the guy called me and said, I'm gonna make sure you lose this election. And I'm gonna say it right here on open air. Sabrina Newby is part of it because she's working with Dr. Monroe, okay? So you figure that out, okay? And then figure it out. And if you have any more questions, you can by all means ask me. But I have nothing to hide. 912-316-6009. I am still the best candidate because I know what it's like to be discriminated against. I know what it's like to be lied on. So I'm a fighter for all people.
Thank you, Ms. Griggs.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Monroe, would you like to address that?
I'm not sure what she's speaking of. I just know that, like I said, she's been forthcoming, and I'm not going to discredit her in any way.
I think there's a new allegation out that your campaign had something to do with this ad. Can you address that?
We have not done anything with this ad. This person obviously put it out on their own. I'm not aware of it. And yes, Sabrina Newby is part of my team, but I'm not aware of this ad.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is a little specific. So I'll start with Ms. Griggs. How much money have you raised so far, and who are your donors? And have you accepted any corporate donations?
Number one, we'll start off with the corporate donations. I have not, and I refuse to accept corporate donations. And the reason for that, if you accepting corporate donations, you're not working for the people. The corporation owns you, so that you're going to jump through the hoops for the corporations, okay? And I think I probably raised maybe about 5,000, give or take, and mainly they've been from my family and friends and local donors. And I think that's very important, that it shouldn't be the person that raised the most money that will win the campaign. It's the one that has the heart for the people, that will work for the people. And I think I've proven that with the various work that I've done throughout this district, not just when I was running, but for years. Citizens for Environmental Justice, when they had pollutants over in black poor and black neighborhoods. When I marched with the gun control, the violence, I marched on that. So I've been there. The Ahmaud Aubrey, I've been there with them. Where were they? Okay, where were they? I was on the ground, boots on the ground with the family. Thank you.
Mr. Herring, the same question. How much money have you raised so far, and who are your donors, and have you accepted any corporate donations?
I've raised about $600,000 to date. I have over 1,500 donations, all from individuals, primarily from the state of Georgia. I don't have any corporate donors. On a congressional campaign cannot accept corporate donations. That's against the rules. Anybody who wants to look at my donor list, go to the FEC. My donor list is posted, again, in contrast to other campaigns. I wish money wasn't as important as it is for a campaign, but money is required to win political races. Right now, the incumbent has about $2 million in his account. He's not been tested. I'm going to test him, and I'm going to make him spend his money, and I'm going to put my message out there.
Thank you. Ms. Monroe.
Thank you. I started this race in January, and with that, I have raised $81,000, and that is on the FEC website. So it has been reported. I have a very good treasurer who made sure that we were actually the first people to report this quarter. And with that, we have not taken any corporate donations, and the majority of my donors are actually healthcare providers who understand that there is a need to change Georgia and its healthcare laws. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is, what are your opinions about dark money and PACs and funding elections? We're starting with Mr. Herring, going on to Ms. Monroe, and then ending with Ms. Griggs. Mr. Herring?
Well, I think dark money and the role of PACs has upset the political discussion in this country. Congress had addressed it and helped limit some of that. Then the Supreme Court came in and said, no, it was a First Amendment right, a speech right to spend money on a campaign. I think Congress needs to revisit the funding rules. Again, I wish money was not so important in political races, but we're going to have to work around the Supreme Court rulings, and in this instance, it's a constitutional ruling because of the speech issue.
Ms. Monroe?
Thank you. I do think that it's important for PACs to be able to give donations. It helps the candidates in a sense, but the dark money is concerning, but it's not just that. It's about the amount of money that needs to be run for a campaign. I think about a 71-year-old woman who was evicted from her house because she couldn't pay her rent, and yet we're spending money frivolously on campaigns. There's people in need, and yet we spend money to signs and decorate buses and everything else where I think that we could give back to our community if those donations were able to put elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Griggs.
Yes, thank you again. I really believe that we need to also, PAC money is important to a degree, but we need to limit the amount of money even PACs can give. We need to really get on and watch this dark money coming in, because unfortunately, some people already have 80, not here, but have $80 million, have raised this, that, and the other. And it's kind of unfortunate, really. So I would say maybe we need to come up with a recommendation that some of that money they're raising, that they donate it to their local community, to worthwhile causes in that community. Unfortunately, it's sad because there's so much money being spent on these campaigns. And unfortunately, there are so many people in need. So there got to be a balance somewhere. And I say we need to limit the amount of PAC money and that dark money. So a lot of this stuff is dangerous. It's supposed to be a democracy, but it's generally whoever can raise the most money or can put the most money out there, okay? And as far as my bus and I paid for that out of my own pocket. So if anybody want to know, I paid for that out of my own pocket for my campaign.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll continue speaking about money. Buddy Carter has more campaign money than the three of you combined. How will you propose to deal with his advantage to make this a competitive race? We'll start with Ms. Monroe, go on to Ms. Griggs, and end with Mr. Herring.
Thank you. Buddy Carter does have more money, but what I know is that Buddy Carter has voted against the people of this district. I say that because he voted against veterans. He voted against disabilities for people exposed to fire pits. That's a problem. The veterans are outraged. I also know that he voted against breastfeeding in the workplace. Breastfeeding in the workplace. This is just a natural thing that a person should be able to do as they go to work. They're trying to make money. It's an economic issue. So I plan to use his votes against him and his words, his newsletter against him, because honestly, I'll never raise enough money to equal what he has. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Griggs?
Thank you again. Yes, Mr. Carter has a lot of money. However, though, he does not represent the people of this district adequately. Unfortunately, or fortunately, whatever you might want to call it, if you look at Mr. Carter, you're looking at Donald Trump. He's endorsed by Donald Trump. He tried to overturn our elections. I say what we need to do is expose his voting records so that the people can know that he is not for them. He could care less about them. He's wealthy. Look at what he did down in Camden County. Oh, but he forgot that he bought that land, okay, and Spaceport is going there. So it was like inside trading, okay? We need to boot him out. We need to send him home, okay? We will look at his record. And I will tell everybody, that I see, look at his voting record. What has he done for you? Actually, has he ever been over in a disenfranchised neighborhood, in a black neighborhood? Has he been over there? I bet he's been to the country clubs. Come on. He's not for the people. He does not have the interests of the people at heart. So we will expose his voting record.
Thank you. We're going to end with Mr. Herring.
Look, we all agree that Buddy Carter needs to be replaced. That's why we're sitting in this studio tonight. We all agree that his voting record does not represent the people of this district. And we all agree that that voting record needs to be exposed and communicated. But to expose and to communicate that record, it's going to take more than energy and passion and good intentions. It's going to take money. And so I'm already doing what's required. My campaign is sending mail, and my campaign went on TV today. That's what it's going to take to beat Buddy Carter.
Thank you. Did you have a follow-up question?
I think we're good.
Okay, sorry. The next question, what skills from your professional career make you a good candidate to represent us in Congress? We'll start with Ms. Griggs, move on to Mr. Herring, and then end with Ms. Monroe.
Great. Boy, I have so many skills that would make me great and excellent as your Congresswoman. Well, number one, like I said before, growing up dirt poor, one of 10 children, working my way through college without student loans, okay? That's a big issue right now, and we've got to do something about that. And as a congresswoman, I will. But my skills include, I went to law school with 2 children as a single parent. I worked my way through law school. I started my own law practice from scratch, okay? I couldn't walk into these big law firms around here, whatever they are, because generally they weren't hiring that many black people, let alone black women. Let's tell the truth, okay? So I had to make my own way. I even hired some other people that needed jobs. Also, my military experience made me the best candidate. All of my military experience as an intelligence officer. I have worked with National Intelligence Agency, the Ground Intelligence Center out at Charlottesville, Virginia. I've worked with Defense Intelligence Agency. I've worked with generals. I've worked with privates. All those experiences have given me a wealth of knowledge to work with the John Doe at the bottom to all the way up to the top. I can sit down with the least of these, and I can also sit down with the higher up people and to make and negotiate. And as a lawyer, I was able to negotiate. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We're going to move on to Mr. Herring.
I've been a problem solver for over 35 years. I've listened to people, I've tried to understand and have understood what their needs are, and then I've helped them find a solution and solve the problem. That's how I've spent my career. I'm a hard worker. I've worked since I was 14 years old. I'm a person of faith. My faith shapes who I am and what I do, and I'm a listener. And on the faith part of it, the Bible is very clear that justice is done when a nation takes care of the widow, the orphan, and the stranger. That's what I want to do. Take care of the widow, the orphan, and the stranger, and do justice.
Thank you. Ms. Monroe.
Thank you. So as I mentioned earlier in my introduction, I am a military officer with 28 and a half years of experience. That's federal level experience. And that's one of the reasons why I chose to run at the federal level, because my experience translates to that federal position. I also have attended the Army War College. That gave me a master's in strategic studies. Now this is not just any master's, but it prepares you for national security issues. And so you learn the history behind all the wars that have occurred so that you have the experience to make those decisions in a wartime effort. I also have a DNP, which is a Doctor of Nursing Practice. That degree in and of itself is an evidence level degree that puts into place policies and procedures. And so as your Congresswoman, I have the experience that we need in this district. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. One more question from me, and then I believe we'll move it over to Margaret. What is the biggest setback you've had in your life, and what did you learn from that challenge? We're going to start with Ms. Monroe, go on to Ms. Griggs, and end with Mr. Herring.
The biggest setback I had in my life was my mom getting cancer. So it wasn't just about cancer, but she got cancer when I was 6 years old. But that made me resilient. And that made me fight to go to school to become a nurse. And it was the nurses that affected me at that point in time that drove me to be the first person to go to college in my family. I started out at Catonsville Community College and then transferred because we didn't even know how to navigate the system. She had Hodgkin's disease. Luckily for me, at 6 years old, she recovered from Hodgkin's disease. But later in life, she got lung cancer. And so she died at the age of 56 years old. And she's been in my heart and watching over me since 2004. And I just know that like I said, she's watching over me, and a lot of people say that I'm a spitting image of her. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to go on to Ms. Griggs.
Okay, you want to know the biggest setback? And how did I overcome it?
And what did you learn from that challenge? Yes.
Okay. The biggest setback I think I've had has been professional. When I was illegally disbarred, okay? And that hurt because I went to law school with 2 children, paid my own way, struggled, juggled balls to make sure I got through, studied for the bar, and start practicing law. So that was a big challenge. However, though, I also look at that as not really a setback, anymore. I look at it as a setup. And the reason I say that is because what I learned from that was there's a lot of people that have been unfairly targeted. And I can understand the pain that they've gone through. I can understand what they've experienced. So as a result, I was more determined to fight even harder. And I'm running for Congress, so no one else will have to go and experience what I've experienced. So I've learned so much from that. It has increased my faith in God. It caused me to pray more, to depend on Him more, and to really trust Him, and to walk by faith and not by sight. Because my journey is not over yet. I'm here for the people of the 1st Congressional District to fight for you. I know how to fight.
Griggs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We're going to end with Mr. Herring.
My biggest personal setback was when my daughter had a massive brain hemorrhage when she was in the 7th grade. We almost lost her. Fortunately, she survived and had a full recovery. But I learned a lot of things. I learned the importance of family. I learned the importance of networks of friends to support you. I learned the importance of faith. And I learned that not everybody has those things. As we waited those days in the intensive care, we waited with other families who didn't have those networks and didn't have those friends, and that some people are really on thin ice. And I wasn't, and I was fortunate and very blessed.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to pass it over to Margaret.
So, candidates, you're all Democrats. What is the one thing that you want voters to think about as they stand at the voting booth on May 24th? What's the one thing that sets you apart from your competitors here on the stage tonight? Ms. Griggs, you're going to go first, Ms. Monroe, and then Mr. Herring. Thanks again. One thing I think they need to know is I've been down this road before. And I want you to remember that each time I gained 10 points, from 30-something% against Jack Kingston in 2020 to almost 42% in 2000. I'm sorry, in 2020, it was 2000 Jack Kingston. But almost, and look at the trend, another 10%, guess what? It's over 50%. We win, okay? But I want you to know one thing, that I have the heart of the people, that the people of this district need someone with a strong voice to articulate their needs. And I am that strong voice. I can't be bribed and I can't be bought. I'm not running for me. I'm not running for any glory or money or fame. I'm running for the people of this district. And I understand what the people have been through. You need to also remember who has worked among you. Have they been out of your communities? I don't think so. Most of them have not. I've been there numerous times in different situations. I've been out on the battlefield and I am combat ready. And I have actually been in combat, boots on the ground. I know about the national intelligence issues. I know about the local issues. I am combat ready and I'm the best one for this job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Monroe.
Thank you. What sets me apart is my passion and the care that I have for this district. And I say that because I actually met in Camden County Miss Janie Everett. Now, I want to tell you about the Diaco Memorial Project. It is a project that is a museum, but it was a chemical explosion where 21 people, 21 black women died. There were up to 30 people that ended up dying that day, but they died. And the only thing that they're asking for is to get a congressional medal to honor them, to honor the work that they did for the war. That's never happened. And I say that because as a veteran, I know what it's like for people to take care of you in a time of war. And we need to think about the veteran status and my status as a person who will reflect what is needed in this district. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Herring.
What sets me apart is that I've put together a campaign motivated by my outrage over January 6th to take it to Buddy Carter. I've put together a campaign that's endorsed by persons like Edna Jackson and Otis Johnson and Derek Mallow. I've been endorsed by the Progressive Turnout Project, along with Senator Warnock and Nakima Williams and Sanford Bishop. I found out Monday I've been endorsed by the AFL-CIO. I've got a grassroots campaign with over 1,500 donors and donations. That's what it's going to take to beat Buddy Carter, and that's what I want people to remember when they vote this May.
Thank you. Our next question is about legislating. This is a skill that involves both networking and compromise, especially for newly elected members of the House of Representatives. So the question is this: how do you characterize your relationship with Georgia's Democratic leaders? And what experiences have you had in your personal and professional life with compromise? We're starting with Mr. Herring, and then Ms. Monroe and Ms. Griggs.
Well, we've already reached out to leaders of the Democratic Party in the state of Georgia and members of the Georgia delegation. Last November, I sat down with Carolyn Bordeaux. I've reached out, I've spoken with Representative Bishop. As a lawyer, that's what I've done all my career, is to listen and to learn and to synthesize information and to compromise. That's how you solve problems. I've been married for 39 years. I'm very proud of that. But as a person who's been married for 39 years, I know how to compromise. A congressional representative is one of 435 people, and that's a limited power. So you've got to be willing to deal with that, and at the same time do the job for your district.
Thank you. Ms. Monroe?
Thank you. As a military officer and reaching the rank of colonel and commander, you have to compromise, but you also have to hold people accountable. And that's what I think your legislative officials need to do. Now, as far as this seat in and of itself, what I see is that there is a lot of divide amongst our parties. And what I would like to do is bring that divide together. We need someone who's going to work across the aisle to work to the benefit of the people so that we can get things done. Because this division isn't helping anyone within this district. And so we have to have someone who's willing to talk across the aisle to make bipartisan movement of this legislature. Thank you.
Ms. Griggs?
Thank you. You know, negotiation is very important, and as a lawyer, I did a lot of negotiation. And I think it's very important that you negotiate for the benefit of the people you're supposed to be representing. And that's what I would do. That's what I'll do. Not for the corporations, not for the special interest groups, but for the people of the 1st Congressional District. And also, I feel that what is the agenda for the people of the 1st District? And that's where listening comes in. Listening to the people, determining what they want. And then what I would do is push for what the people are in need of in this district. Of course, you're gonna have to give and take. That's life. But I wouldn't do it to the detriment of the people of the 1st Congressional District. I will fight for them. I've always said I'm a fighter. I am a fighter. And when I get to Washington, I will continue to be a fighter. And I will fight for the people. And I'm also, like I said, willing to negotiate for the benefit of the people. If there's something that would hurt the people, by no means am I going to go along with it. But I will fight for the people, and I will negotiate and bring it back home to the 1st District.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Our next question. If you are elected, what legislation would you prioritize in your first year in office, and why? Ms. Monroe, you're first, Mr. Herring, and then Ms. Griggs.
The first piece of legislation that I would prioritize is Medicaid expansion. We know that between 217% or to 225% of the poverty level, you have to be at in order to be eligible to even have Medicaid in this state. That's absurd. There are 1.3 million people in this state without health care insurance. Of that, 800,000 of them are working. They are working. So we need to increase also the livable wage. We need to increase minimum wage to a livable wage so that people can afford to live. All they want to do is have food and housing. And we also need to work on affordable housing for the district. Thank you.
Thanks. Mr. Herring.
The question was, what's your top priority? And to me, that means number one. And number one is voting rights. It is the reason I'm running because of what happened on January 6th. When there was an effort to overturn the election and steal all of our votes. The next day, one of my colleagues came to my office and said, it can't get worse than this. And I looked right at her and I said, yes, it can. And so we saw it get worse with Senate Bill 202 passed here in Georgia. So it's voting rights, voting rights, voting rights, and the piece of legislation I would work on first is the John Lewis Voting Rights Bill.
Thank you. Ms. Griggs.
Yes, the first piece of legislation that I will work on, of course, is making health care available to all the people. That is so important, and the reason I say that even more so is that people are dying because of a lack of health care, and especially rural health care, and come up with a comprehensive program that we can make sure those in the rural areas have access to health care. But number one would be to make sure we have affordable and adequate health care to all people. Expand the Affordable Care Act. Make sure that the people can get the coverage they need without breaking the bank, or without having to try to juggle the ball as to whether or not they're going to buy food or try to get health care. So that would be number one. And I would like to point out that Medicaid is not a federal entity, it's a state entity. But I will work with the state legislators to make sure there's monies available, to make sure they have the money so we can expand it. But those that are in office now at the state level have to do something about it also. But Medicaid is a state entity, but I will push for health care reform, which encompasses a lot of things. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is also issue related. Abortion is a question that we have received. Can you each tell us what your opinion is about access to abortion in Georgia? In general, though, do you believe Roe versus Wade should be overturned? And who should decide the issue of abortion for Americans? Mr. Herring, you're first, and then Ms. Griggs and Ms. Monroe.
I do not think Roe versus Wade should be overturned. I think that decision is between a woman and her doctor. The most important people in my life have been women. My two grandmothers, my mother, my wife, my two sisters, my daughter, the wonderful teachers I've had across the years. I trust women to make the right decisions for themselves with their doctor, and the government should not be playing a role in that decision.
Thank you. Ms. Griggs?
Thank you very much. Abortion has been such a hot topic, and especially now with Roe versus Wade and the passing of laws in several states about abortion, who can have an abortion, who can't, or what, how many weeks. You know, but an abortion is a privacy issue. And really, it should be between the woman, her God, her family, or whoever is associated with it. It should be between them. Now, as far as overturning Roe versus Wade, it is the law of the land right now. Roe versus Wade is still the law of the land. I can't determine if it will be overturned, okay? I didn't make the law. The law was already in place. The law is in place. However, again, I would like to say that we should make sure that that person, that woman, that man, her significant other, whomever, should make the determination on abortion. It is a privacy issue. And the most important of all, they should consult with God about the issue of abortion. And again, it's a privacy issue, and it should be handled as such.
Thank you. Ms. Monroe?
Thank you. I believe that this is a woman's issue in and of itself. It is her right, her reproductive freedom to choose what is in best interest of her health and her mental health. And that's why I have actually been endorsed by Vote Pro-Choice, because they understand that I will fight for the woman. It is her decision and her decision alone. She lives with that decision for the rest of her life, whether it be for abortion or not. If she carries that pregnancy and goes to adoption, that is her personal choice. And that is only hers to choose, not any government, not anyone else, the right of the woman. Thank you.
Thank you. Next issue, climate change. As a newly elected congressperson, what would you do to fight global warming? And what programs would you support to help that not happen in Georgia? That is, help deter climate change in Georgia. First person to answer is Ms. Monroe, then Ms. Griggs, and Mr. Herring.
Thank you. Climate change is a huge issue for coastal Georgia. We are already seeing the effects of it with Tybee Island, We saw this in the fact that we have to replenish the beach every year. We also know that there has been sea level rise, and it's going to affect St. Simon's Island. We see more hurricanes, more flooding, and it's an issue across the board for homeowners. And so we have to do something to make change. The things that we can do, recycle program. We need to look at alternative means of transportation, i.e. public transportation options. We need to look at high-speed rail, public transportation as in buses. Specifically looking at Washington State as an example, they have express buses that can take you from out into rural areas downtown with just one quick bus. We need to look at that, and we need to make change in our infrastructure. Thank you.
Ms. Griggs.
Thank you very much. Global warming is real. I know some parties, or a particular party, they want to say that it's not real. Climate change is real. It's happening. Okay, you look at the polar bears, you look at how the ice is melting, how the sea level is rising. And just right here in our area, you can look at the coast of Georgia, look at how we flood. And unfortunately, if there's a major storm, and really doesn't even have to be a major storm, but if it rains quite a bit, let's face it, you can't even get in, on and off of Tybee. Even the streets in this area are flooded. Even in Brunson, throughout the district, the streets are flooding. There's flooding going on. So global warming is critical. Now, what has happened throughout, the Environmental Protection Agency was gutted back when. So I think we need to strengthen the Environmental Protection Agency, that we work with the local and state and federal officials to make sure we tighten that up, come up with alternative fuel sources, which is what we're doing, some electric cars, electric this, and other means. But we need to come up with that and make sure that we come up with some alternatives that will help save us, because we're destroying ourselves with global warming and climate change. Thank you.
Mr. Herring.
Climate change is real. Let's admit it, and let's get ready. And let's protect this special place where we live. 14 barrier islands, the Altamaha River Basin, the Okefenokee Swamp. And how do we get ready? We're going to have to harden our infrastructure. The incumbent voted against the infrastructure bill and then claimed credit for it. Let's have a representative in Congress who will fight to bring some of that infrastructure money here. Let's invest in things like electric buses. Chatham Area Transit just celebrated that. Let's do more of that. Let's continue to explore the reinvigoration of a rail line from Savannah to Atlanta. And let's look at alternative energy. That's going to take difficult choices. And let's do emission control. It's going to be a composite of issues. But let's start, I think, with infrastructure would be number one.
Great. The next question we're going to talk about is the elections of 2020. With due deference to our student who asked the first question, who says she doesn't care about the past, we're going to go there. You're all on record with your outrage about the events of January 6, 2021, and Representative Carter's reaction to it. But here's a question for the now. How imperiled do you believe America's democracy is, given the events of January 6th? And also going on right now, the House Select Committee investigating those events are trying to get subpoenas, trying to collect evidence. How confident are you that those House members and that committee will be able to uncover facts and secure accountability for those responsible for the January 6th debacle? We're going to start with Mr. Herring, then Ms. Monroe, and Ms. Griggs.
I think our country is in peril, so much so that I put my career on hold and I made the decision to run for Congress. What we need now in this nation is for good people to stand up and say, enough. Evil prevails if good people don't stand up, and that's what we need right now, and that's what I'm hoping to do with this campaign. I have faith in the process, both legislative and judicial, that the truth will be uncovered. But I am very concerned if the House flips this election cycle, that truth will not be allowed a chance to be uncovered. The Republicans have already basically said that. When you look at Georgia, the 1st district, is a district that we can flip. And that's why I'm working so hard to win this nomination and then go on to win this election so we can preserve that Democratic majority and get the truth told about January 6th.
Thank you. Ms. Monroe.
This country is in peril, and we see that through the divisiveness of the parties. And across the board, it is so wide. We need someone in Congress that's going to bring people together, bring the issues together, and be able to have that compromise, as we talked about previously, so that we get bipartisan support to make change in this district, to be supportive of the people of the district. That's what your representative is supposed to do. Now, January 6th is an attack on our country, and I look at it as an attack like 9/11 was. We need to absolutely hold people accountable for the actions that they took on that day, and there is no excuses. And so I would hope, and I'll say it, I'll hope that the committee for January 6th holds people accountable. Thank you.
Ms. Griggs.
Thank you very much. We're in grave danger of losing our democracy for our children and our children's children. So we must make sure that we preserve our democracy. Unfortunately, January 6th was a grievous offense. Having been in the military, actually having been in combat, when I saw that, I literally wept because of what I saw. I said, is this the America that I went to Iraq for and risked my life to come back and get this? It's unfortunate. But nevertheless, we must work together as a people in order to preserve our democracy. I think it was Khrushchev years ago said, if America's not careful, America is going to fall from within. And unfortunately, that's happening. Now, the January 6th panel, they should hold each and every one of those accountable that participated in that January 6th insurrection, okay? Because even our former congressman, our present congressman, treason, okay? So we need to hold them accountable and not let them escape, because if we do, it'll be worse next time. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's talk a little bit more about federal subsidies and benefits for Georgians. The U.S. Congress, of course, decides the priorities of spending of the U.S. government and which states benefit more from federal government spending. As the congressperson for the 1st District, what federal funds and programs would you lobby for and try and pass for this district and for all Georgians? Ms. Griggs, you're going first, then Mr. Herring, and then Ms. Monroe.
Thank you. You know, there's a lot of issues that I would lobby for. Well, I would say right off the bat, having been a small business owner, I would definitely lobby for the small businesses. Unfortunately, during the pandemic, a lot of small businesses went under. A lot of them were not able to regroup. And unfortunately, the money that was given out did not go to a lot of the small business. They went to a lot of the larger businesses that didn't necessarily need the money. So I will push to make sure that we protect our small business. Small business have been the backbone of this country, okay? So I will definitely push for that. And I will also push, again, for health care, accessible, affordable health care. Student loan debt is a big issue. I will look at methods and to forgive certain student loans based on the individual, based on the loan, look at each one of them. And veterans issue would be a big issue that I will fight for. Being a veteran myself, VA is broken. You know, we cannot continue the way we're going. And there's so many issues, but I will fight. I will listen to my constituents and move based on what they say after I've done my research. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Herring.
I think you have to set priorities. You can't tackle it all at once. I think biggest number one priority is health care, Medicaid, expansion, so mothers especially and children get the care that they need. Investment in education and early childhood care and daycare. Daycare's in a crisis. And investment in infrastructure to make sure we get our fair share of that money, and there's a fair share for the businesses, local businesses, to participate. There are a lot of issues, but my priorities would be healthcare, education, infrastructure, after, of course, number one, voting rights.
Thank you. Ms. Monroe.
Thank you. So I would like to argue for federal funds for economic development. And I say that because as we looked at the pandemic, many businesses, many rural families were affected. Specifically, women left the workplace to take care of the children who had to do virtual learning. So they lost their income or potentially had to shift their income to teleworking. That is a need that was absolutely had to happen, but many women came out of the workplace or retired. And I don't want to specifically say women, because it could have been the man who did that and the woman stayed in the workplace. But we need to look back at the economic development of this district and specifically focus on taking care of families and small businesses, absolutely. But when people are working, they are also taking care of their health. Thank you.
Thank you. That's it for the questions. We have run over time, but we still want to allow everyone a 1-minute closing statement. Again, for our audience, this was an order chosen at random off stage before we started. The first person for the closing statement will be Ms. Griggs, and then Mr. Herring, and then finally Ms. Monroe. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for all of your great answers. Ms. Griggs, please, you have 1 minute to close.
Thank you very much. I would like to say that I am the best candidate for this position. Not for me, but for you, your children, and our children's children. So I ask that when you go to the polls, if you early vote, if you wait until May 24th, vote for Joyce Marie Griggs. I have shown that I have what it takes to get over 50%. Matter of fact, in 2020, I got over 135,000 votes, almost 42%, okay? And we didn't spend millions of dollars. We spent less than $150,000. But I have the boots on the ground. We have grassroots efforts. We've talked to people. We've engaged people. We've been there with them. We've felt the heartbeat of the people. You have a voice in me, a strong voice in Washington to articulate your needs. And I am the best one. Irregardless of how many endorsements some other people may have, look at the person that can get the job done. And with all my life experiences, military, having been out in the community, I am the best one. Look at the other ones. See who's been out in your community. Thank you very much. Remember, vote Joyce Marie Griggs, your next Congresswoman. Thank you.
Mr. Herring.
Again, I'm Wade Herring. First, thanks to Savannah State. It's great to be back on this campus. I've been a lecturer here many times. Thanks to the Current for this forum. I'm running for Congress because of January 6th and because I want a better America, a better tomorrow. And it's going to take hard work. And I'm doing the hard work necessary. It's a reality. Over 2,000 yard signs out, over 10,000 doors knocked, over 1,500 donations, endorsements from local leaders and from the Progressive Turnout Project and the AFL-CIO, raising the money necessary. I wish it wasn't so important, but it is, because that's what it takes to get in the mail and to get on TV. I'm in the mail and I'm on TV. Those are the realities. It's not wishful thinking. It's more than just energy and enthusiasm. It takes that. I've got that. But it also takes the reality of putting a campaign together and taking it to the Republicans. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Dr. Michelle Monroe, and I am the trusted leader for change. You see, do you want change in this district? Because I know I do. And I know that I have the experience necessary to make that change within the district. You see, as a military officer, our assignments are 2 to 3 years. This elected assignment is 2 years. I know how to make change and have solutions for change within that 2-year period. I also have mailers going out and have an ad on digital TV. So there is that. We also have 1,000 yard signs that have been put out and numerous other people that are canvassing for our team. So we are running a true campaign as well, and I know that the voters will come out and vote no matter how much money is raised for the person that they feel will represent them in the election. Thank you.
Thank you to our audience who've been watching us live tonight. Thank you again to our candidates for taking time to speak to us in the 1st District. Thank you, Ariel Felton, my co-moderator. Thanks to our great timekeeper for keeping us all honest. Thanks to the Savannah State Tigers War TV production team. Y'all did great. And the supervisors in the back, Mr. Will Martin and Dr. Reginald Franklin. We appreciate you letting us use your studio tonight. For everyone who is watching, recordings will be available on YouTube channels for WTRT TV and at my website, thecurrentga.org. We'll have them linked up online shortly for your review. Remember, 1st District, every vote counts. Democracy is not a spectator sport. Stay informed to make your best decisions on Election Day. Thank you for watching, and take care.